Hey, what's up, guys? Isaac Hernandez here from the El Paso Creators Podcast Show. We're here at the Amano Artist Co-op here in the heart of downtown. We're also here with our sponsor, Socialize. You guys go check them out. We'll leave the description, all their social media handles around the screen here in the descriptions of all wherever you get your podcast from, on Instagram as well. So make sure to go check them out. My favorite, they're fried Oreos, so they're really famous for their mangoñadas. Gibel, you have one right in front of you. So
Yes.
Whenever you want to eat it during the show or whatever, afterwards, we'll just do like a little taste test, what you think about it. They're really, really good. And so we're also here in Gibel's studios. You just got this studio, right, here at Amano?
Yes.
And so what are you hoping to get with the studio? Like, what are you hoping to bring here?
I really, really want to be surrounded by other artists and really just be inspired,
Yeah.
Be inspired in a place where there's so many different people from different backgrounds bringing in different forms of art.
Yeah.
And they're all coming together to form Amano.
Well, you're creative of all sorts. So you do filmmaking, you do writing, you do painting, you do everything, filmmaking and things like that. So those are a couple of things that we're going to touch on today. I first just kind of want you to introduce yourself, who you are, your kind of background, where you come from, why you're inspired in creativity. I know you're big on storytelling. So, what inspires you when you're going out and creating stories, whether it's filmmaking, poems, things like that. So just go ahead and just introduce yourself, who you are, who's Gibel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gibel Amador. I am a photographer. Sorry, can I do that again?
Photography, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're naming this episode. So a photographer.
Yeah.
There you go.
As you can see, we all came up with the name photographer when we were doing the event photography, and it really just stuck to me.
Yeah.
Because I have such a hard time telling people what I do and what I am, because I tell them, I'm an artist. And they're like, oh, you paint. And I'm like, no, not exactly.
Yeah.
So I love the word photographer because it's I do writing and photography.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it just collides and everything. And I remember we were sitting there at 210 and we were just thinking with names and stuff.
Yeah,
and we were like, what about poetography? And we're like, poetography? That sounds kind of nice. We were there for an hour or so just trying to think of something. But no, I mean, it really actually stuck to me too. And then we're also continuing that event with you. So just different mediums. I know your core is art. So you previously had a show over there at Heaven's Portal, the La Magie. Or La Magie, how do you say
La
that?
Magie.
La Magie.
Yeah.
So go ahead and just tell us the whole inspiration behind that. I know it's about your childhood and
Yes.
everything, but for people who don't know, why did you create that showcase specifically for that gallery?
So the owner of Heaven's Portal reached out to me, and he was like, I really want you to be the next artist to take over on this series that I'm doing, which is an art installation that's you can see through a window display. And it's going to be up for about 3 months. And I had already seen the previous person who had done it. Her name's Giselle. And I loved it. I loved her whole concept, and it was beautiful. It was like a carnival. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, this is her own world. This is what art means to her and how she created it. So for me, art comes from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wanted to be an artist since I was little. And La Magie represents the magic in French.
The magic. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I know you had a lot of cool things on there as far as things from your childhood and all that. So I kind of want to jump back to that now. Your whole childhood, you growing up as an artist, were you always a creative child? Were you always wanting to paint and draw and stuff? Or is this something that you just found and you were like, I want to pursue this? Or how did you become an artist?
Well, I used to love storytelling because I used to play with toys.
Yeah.
And I used to come up with these amazing stories. Even before I knew that it was storytelling, I'd come up with these backgrounds, and I would come up with a plot from beginning to middle to end. And I would have I would do little plays with my stuffed animals. And this whole concept of storytelling was so strong with these toys that when I was introduced to writing, I was like, wow, I can actually write down what I'm doing. I can actually write down my plays. And
you learned how to write as a kid and you're like, I know how to write now. I'm
yeah.
gonna start writing.
Well, when I was growing up, I had a lot of speech problems.
Okay.
So I couldn't talk until I was 5 or 6. And that really affected me because it's hard to communicate,
Right.
And I would struggle so much, so people wouldn't understand what I was saying. So when I was introduced to writing, I was like, oh, wow, here, this is what I'm trying to say. Let me write it down,
Okay, got you.
And that's one of the main reasons why I fell in love with writing, was because of these speech problems. I struggled a lot through elementary school, and I took speech therapy my whole life, actually. And I always kept that private.
Yeah.
But recently someone asked me, like, why do you write? And I kept telling them, oh, I write because of this, this, and that. And they're like, no, but what made you want to write?
Gotcha.
And that really stuck to me. And I was like, well...
Like the whole big question of why, you know?
Why? And I started remembering, well, I wanted to write because I didn't know how to speak. I didn't know how to talk. And for me, you can say so much in writing that sometimes get lost in translation.
Yeah. You just express yourself. Same thing with photography. It's like you don't know how to talk about something when you capture the photo of it, like the photos you have here. It just tells a big story behind it, something that people maybe not have thought about before. So when people go take portraits, I've seen this one photographer, he takes like cool portraits of like just individuals that he meets in the street. So he'll pull somebody, just take a simple portrait of them. Yeah. But that simple portrait just tells you like their whole character behind them, you know, like it kind of just introduces them like their whole life. It's like an old guy, you know, and like the way his skin is textured, it just introduces you to the whole characteristic of who that person is. You just feel like there's a story behind them you want to know. So same thing with writing and poetry and all that. Now, when you're creating these stories and you're writing and stuff, I guess what's been the most challenging part of you learning how to write and, you know, making sure that you put a story on there that's very impactful and very meaningful? Like, so you're very big on storytelling, like your point on society with all that.
Ooh, that's a tough question.
'Cause I know when we talked, you said you're trying to connect the dots of you know your poetry and you know making society make sense. How do you interpret that for yourself?
I feel like sometimes we get carried away by a lot of superficial things that we forget, like the rawness that gets hidden away in everyday life. So I try to write about stuff that we don't always see, because sometimes people think it's morally wrong, or sometimes people think, oh, this makes me uncomfortable, so I shouldn't write about that. But no, I love writing about stuff that really challenges, I guess, society's perspective of what is right and what is wrong. A lot about what I write is a lot of self-love. I love writing about coming of age stories. I love writing dramas and fantasy. I feel like to be able to create from nothing and add your own twist of how you see reality is really it's really strong when it comes to art, you know.
And that's the greatness of it, is that like whenever you're creating something, you have the freedom to just put anything else. You're not limited to anything that you're creating. So I know another part of you is that you were also doing modeling and all that. So what came first? So you said writing came first, right? When you first got into, I guess, the art scene?
Well,
or what came first?
I always wanted to be a writer since I was little. And over the years, that got really thrown around with me, because I stopped writing because I ended up moving a lot. And when I stopped writing, I got into dancing, modeling, acting. But I always, even though I didn't write, I always had these stories in mind, you know?
Yeah.
My brain was always like thinking, oh, like this would be cool to write this, or I'd always think about the stories that I had already written, you know? That way they don't ever get forgotten, you know?
Gotcha. And so when you implement these things into your writing, you also make films out of them. You go take pictures of them. How important is it to you as a storyteller to make sure that you go out there and you kind of get your story told, and that people take it, whether it's a grain of salt or, you know, they take it as in they're interpreted in a good way? How important is it to you to just go out there and just tell your story to people, and whether it's your personal story or just any story that you're trying to create? I guess how important is that for you?
For me, it's very important. I feel like we're moved by stories all the time, you know? Not only that, but I feel like my stories can help individuals, whatever they're going through. Like I said, I talk a lot about self-love. Yeah. And I feel like sometimes we forget that we need to focus on ourselves. We get so carried away by what other people are doing that we forget, what do we want, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Or like, what do I want? What is my dream? What is my goal? And we think, I need to do this because this is what people expect from me, you know? And in my stories, I try to say, like, no, break away from that, you know?
And I like how you mentioned that. So that's a key thing you probably just said, is like what people expect. It's like, don't do what people are expecting you to do. Be what makes you feel more natural, what makes you feel more yourself when you're putting it out there. So when people, I guess, you put out, I don't know if you've ever done this, where you put out a story and people try to like maybe criticize you on it. How do you take that criticism? Do you take it very like as good feedback? Do you take it as negative feedback? Does it put you down? How do you go ahead and take, like, I guess, people complimenting you, good or bad?
Well, it really depends who's complimenting me, because
Yeah.
I've had people that have never written anything in their life,
Exactly.
and they try to give me feedback, and I'm like,
Mhm.
thank you, but like
Did you ever let that like kind of affect your creative process?
I
Or
did. I
yeah?
used to. I used to be surrounded by individuals that I realized later on they weren't helping me grow, or they weren't really supporting what I do. So I would tell them like, "Oh, look, like I wrote the script," and they would either talk over me, or they would ignore me, or they would be like, "Oh, that's cool."
They didn't really care about what you were doing. Yeah. So how did you move forward with that? Like, because you obviously didn't give up. You obviously didn't quit. You still kept pushing to where you're at right now. So it's like, how did you, at that moment, when you were, I guess, when you were still getting started, you were still young. How did you push above that? Besides like all these people just laughing at you, not paying attention to you.
It was really hard. It took me a couple of years actually.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I guess the pandemic, where I was isolated from those people,
Yeah.
that I realized, wow, I'm so happy like doing what I love by myself. And that made me realize, wow, I'm not in a good place, I'm not in a place where people are supporting my craft and people are.
So you were in a negative circle. Yeah.
And it wasn't until the pandemic that it threw me out of that negative circle, and I realized, wow, like I love being alone, and not only that I love being alone, but I love writing.
Yeah.
And when I was hanging out with those people, I kind of stopped writing. I was more like helping them in what like their craft,
Yeah.
And I always had like my writing to a side, and now because of the pandemic, I had like just my writing,
Yeah.
So
It was just you and your stories and your writing and all that.
So it wasn't until I guess because of what happened, I was like, okay, like, so in a good way, like the pandemic did help me, made me realize I want to be a writer, and I'm not going to let anyone ever stop me from doing that.
Yeah. And so going into writing, now you do films, your first film, the Staircase one. Tell us a little bit what that one was about. What is the Staircase, and how did your whole process in creating that? So, being at your first film, and like, the struggles you went on creating your first film, I guess.
The Staircase. So I've always worked in filmmaking since I was in high school. I produced, I was assistant director, I was like the production manager.
Did you pursue this after high school, like as like a degree and all that?
No, I didn't actually.
Okay. That's weird. Okay,
that's another story.
Yeah.
But I actually worked for a production company, and I did all those things. And so, I was always in filmmaking, but I always wanted to direct, and I always wanted to write. And like I said, I was around like a lot of people that kept putting me down, and I would always be like, oh, I want to make this movie. And they would be like, oh, yeah, next time. Next time would come, and I'd be like, I want to make the script into a movie. Oh, yeah, don't worry.
They would just ignore you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it next year. And the years passed, and I was like, wow, like, I haven't done anything.
And I feel like that's one thing that I don't like about the whole education system for the arts community, is because, for example, when I went to NMSU, they put me in a photography class. It was contemporary or something like that, contemporary photography. And no matter what we told, it was being graded. And I feel like as a creative, you shouldn't be graded on your work. It should be very easy flowing for you. It should be something that's just you. Because, okay, so like let's say you have an instructor who's over here grading your artwork. Well, they're not seeing the same artwork on your perspective as, the way they're seeing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's just, I always had that whole contemplation of like, I don't think teaching art in the college setting should be in that format of a way where you're grading people and you're judging them on based of their piece of art and all that, because like I said, it's your creative flow, it's what you're expressing through yourself. And so when you're doing that, it's just like, what are you really telling them, that they either suck or those type of things. So that's something that I've never really liked about the whole putting art into education. It's just that people are always like just pushing you to the side, or they're always telling you no, this is not how you were supposed to do it, but then who are they to say that that's how you're supposed to do it,
Exactly. So, and I agree with that. So that's why it wasn't until like the pandemic that I was like, I signed up for a directing class, and like I knew this is what I wanted to do. For so many years I kept saying I want to direct,
Yeah.
And me signing up for that class was like that extra like commitment of like, okay, I'm gonna take a directing class, and let's see what I can gain from that class.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And it really opened my eyes because in that whole class we were given options if to make a short film.
Yeah.
And there were about like 12 people in that class. Out of the 12, I think only 2 people made a short film.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was me and this other guy, and that's something that I love about school, because I feel like I always tend to go, and I feel like one should always go above and beyond. If you're studying something, don't just study it. Practice what you're studying and perfect it, you know? That way, once you are out of school, you're like, oh, I already know how to do this because I've been practicing it. I haven't been learning. I mean, I've been learning it, but I've been applying what I learn and making it a reality.
Yeah. And so which one of the areas, writing, filmmaking, photography, really sparked you, and that's where you really truly found your passion out of? Like, which one of those, I guess?
It was filmmaking.
Filmmaking, why?
So in that directing class, we were also given the options to write our own script or to pick a script. And I actually was the only one in my whole class that actually wrote my own script.
Yeah.
And when I wrote it, I actually wrote it in 1 hour. Like, I had never written a script in 1 hour. And
is that where you made that film, the staircase one?
Yeah, the staircase.
Okay, so that's it.
And yeah, I wrote the staircase in 1 hour, and I was like, oh my god, I need to make this. Like, I need to make this into a movie. And at the time, I had reached out to all the people I knew that were filmmakers.
Yeah.
And they all said no. Each one of them. They were like, no, I can't. No, I can't. No, I can't because of the pandemic. Oh, no, I can't because...
So it was like even twice as tough to make a movie during the pandemic and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was given like so many reasons, no. And it really affected me because a lot of these acquaintances, I had helped them out earlier.
Yeah.
So now it was my turn that I wanted to do something, and I didn't know anyone. I was doing it by myself. And that day, I was on Instagram, and I had seen that this guy had posted that he had just worked as a cinematographer for a short film.
Yeah.
And he had actually commented on one of my posts about a book. We were talking about a book that we had read. So I was like, you know what? I don't know this guy, but I'm going to message him and see if he wants to help me make a short film. And I messaged him, and I was like, hey, like, I have this project. I don't know if you're down to meet up. I know, like, we're going through the whole COVID pandemic. I'll get tested before we meet up. But I really want to pitch you my script and see if you're down to be my cinematographer, and I'll direct it, and And
that's where the passion comes out of, because it's not just a school assignment at that point. It's something that you're building. It's your passion. It's something you really want to do. So you were trying to find a way. I mean, after all those no's you got, you're just like, I'm still going to make this happen.
And I reached out to a stranger, and this guy did not know me. Well, he didn't know me. He had actually seen the movie that I was in, Bunny King.
Yeah.
Like 1 year prior to meeting me, and he saw my work in it, and that's why he had followed me actually on Instagram. And so I met up with him. His name's Diego Davila. And
was he the one that was in our Poet-ographer?
Yeah,
Diego? Okay,
yeah.
gotcha.
So,
okay,
and it was for the first time I've never had someone actually, like, I guess, believe in me.
Yeah.
And for the first time, we sat down, and he truly read my entire script, like, gave me feedback. And him being a filmmaker, I took this feedback really, like, crucial, you know, because he actually did a short film that got into Cannes Film Festival, in France. So, and I didn't know this. Like, me, like, when I had met up with him, I had no idea that he had even done that film that got into Cannes.
Yeah.
I just saw him as like, oh, this guy's a cinematographer that I just found on Instagram.
Yeah.
So, I didn't know what to expect, but he actually showed up and was like, you know what? I read your script, and I think this is amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm so down to do this with you.
He really saw the big value that you brought within your script. He really believed in your story.
He saw my creativity, and he wanted to push for it even more. And I've never had someone really, like, tell me, you know what, Gibel? I think you can do this. Yeah. And I'm willing to help you to do this. Because I believe in you. And the first time, because I've always been around creatives. Yeah. But he's the first creative here in El Paso that told me that, like, I think you can
That
do it.
actually really believed in you. So as everybody always told you no and that, ignored you, he was the first one to step up and be like, make your vision come to
And
life.
he didn't know me at all. Like,
Yeah.
I was just like some college student, like, yo, help me with my short film for the semester,
Yeah. So you touched two key points that I really wanted to talk about. There is support system and networking.
Yeah.
Growing up, did you have that support system when you were first coming into your art, as far as like your mom, your dad, family members, or friends, things like that? Like, I know a lot of people told you no in the beginning, but as far as like that, like your family, I guess, did you have that support system when you told them you wanted to be an artist and writer and everything?
I never had that support system, and I'm so glad that there's people that do have that support system, because I feel like it's something you do need. So many creatives, they give up on doing arts because their family do not support them.
I've met a lot of people like that, people who were amazing singers, photographers, and people told them no so much that they ended up giving up. They haven't done talent no more, and I'm like, that's
and
sad
it's really sad to see, and I've seen it too. And I guess maybe because I saw it within my own family, I decided, I don't want to become like that, And like when I graduated high school, I was actually studying psychology to please my family, because I knew that if I had done an art degree or anything related to the arts, they would
bash on you
right away, pick on me, or they would be like, what are you doing with your life? So the first year of college, I studied psychology.
So how was that for you? Like, you didn't enjoy it as much, did you? Like when you were going through that?
Psychology is really interesting. Like I feel like I have this love for it, but it's not my passion,
No, the reason I asked that is because, so when you're doing something you don't really like, you're always trying to find a way to get out of that, you know? And so that's pursuing your passion. So when you make that whole staircase film, I guess after pursuing that, how did that overall change for you? Like, how did they see, because now you're doing this full time. So you're doing photography full time, you're doing a lot of these other art things full time now. So how do they see that now in their own perspective? Like, okay, damn, we were wrong, we were trying to force her something on this, and she's an actual artist and now she's doing art full time. How did you see the perspective change? How did that affect you as a person and individual?
I feel like really conflicted, because some of my family members now, they do support me, because they've been seeing, like, I've been getting a lot of income actually from my photography and my directing and my videography, because I also do music videos besides photography. And I also write, like I do resumes for people, I do essays. And now that I'm gaining income, now they're like, we support you because we see that there's value to it financially, you know? But I still feel like there's family members that are still like, I don't know. I still think it's not too late to, like, change your mind. Yeah.
And I always say this. I'm always telling any individual, I'm like, support whoever's coming up to you asking for support, because in the end, it's their dream. It's something that they're passionate about. But not only that, the world that we're living in now, it's so different. The fact that back then it was so scary to put, your kid into some random stranger's car, and now there's something like Uber. Yeah. It's crazy how the world's changing, Yeah. And so it's just, either you're either supporting them, or you're setting yourself with a bad relationship with your son or with your daughter or your friend and all that, because you're implementing negative feedback, something you don't even know about that they're really wanting to pursue. And then you see that, and I feel like you're just jumping on the train after that. But I guess another thing is that, so I want to go back to when you met David.
Diego,
my bad. I thought of David Correll, that's why. I know you work a lot with him. Yeah, I know you worked a lot with him. But Diego, so you just simply sent him a message, right?
Yeah, I did.
He ended up replying, and you guys ended up working together. He made your story come to life.
Yeah.
One thing that I want to ask you is, how important do you think that is when you're out there and just trying to network with people? How do you see the impact of networking?
I think the impact of networking is so important that, like, I understand people are shy, but you need to meet other creatives, because you never know who might be that person to open the door into an art gallery for you. You don't know who's that person that's gonna introduce you to a client. You don't know if that person is gonna help you, like how Diego helped me.
It takes that one opportunity to change everything.
It takes that one opportunity, like, because I learned photography mostly from, like, what Diego would tell me, like, because he took pictures of me back right after we wrapped up the staircase. Yeah. So I was modeling in front of the camera, and I felt like I learned so much, because for the first time I was modeling, but I was really aware of the photography aspect of
Gotcha.
it.
So the staircase one, you still haven't told us what that one's about.
Oh,
What
yeah,
was that one
sorry.
about? I'm interested because
Yeah.
you're a storyteller and you love writing,
Yeah.
so I want to see kind of what you wrote and why you wrote it.
Oh wow, we're gonna go a little personal.
A
So
little
the
deep.
staircase, it's about a couple, and the whole scene takes place in a staircase. And I got inspired by Marriage Story. If you guys have seen the movie, there's a argument fight scene that is really inspiring, even though they're yelling at each other. But if you really listen to the dialogue, the writing in it, it is so good, because sometimes we forget, like, this happens in relationships.
Yeah.
People fight. People, they say horrible things. They do horrible things.
So
but
you related it to the real life events that happened in
yeah.
the world. Okay.
So the staircase is very symbolic. Like, the girl goes up the stairs, the guy goes down. The girl, at the end, the guy's all the way on the top, but he's sitting down, and the girl's standing up, so she's looking down on him. You know, and in the beginning of it, she's sitting down, and he's walking inside the house, so he's looking down on her. So I guess my whole symbolism is that sometimes in life, yeah, you're like in the bottom of the stair,
Yeah.
you know? And you might be in the bottom for a while. It might take you a while to get up those stairs, you know? You might be in the middle and be like, actually, let me take a step down.
Yeah.
Because somebody's telling me I can't do this.
Mm.
But at the end, you have to push through and overcome that.
Yeah.
So my whole staircase movie is about that. It's about trying to overcome the obstacles that life throws at you.
I love the whole perspective and what you interpreted from making that. And so that's your first film, and that's what you wrote your story on. That's what you interpreted.
Yeah.
So now your most recent film, how do you compare the two? What did you learn from one another? What do you see as a big difference that, from when you started up until like where you're at right now?
Well, I wrote and directed The Staircase.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in other films such as Bunny King, such as like a couple more.
How did you see yourself progress through it, I guess? Like, what did you learn from, your first film?
Yeah.
What takeaways did you get from them?
Well,
I guess your learning curve.
I learned a lot about directing.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work with two amazing actors that gave me a lot. Like, in my script, I wanted my actress to be at first very sad. But then I felt like my actress was like, no, I feel like the character needs to get mad right here.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm gonna put trust in you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And she got mad, but then she toned it down back to sad, and I love seeing that. I love, like, being able to work with other creatives and having them push your work even, like, to the next level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, I guess throughout your whole process, so you started being a creative when? Around what age?
Oh wow.
Or like an artist,
professionally?
Not professionally, I guess, but like when you first sparked your interest and
I
like
guess
you
when
wanted
I
like
was,
you
like,
started to get passionate about it.
4 or 5.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
So from that point to now, what are some things that you hit through life that, maybe where there are some sacrifices or mistakes that you learned from? Things that maybe were going to really bring you down at one
Yeah.
point and you said, no, I'm going to get through it. And that ended up opening up a new opportunity for you that you never could have gotten if you didn't go through that. I guess sacrifices in a way, mistakes.
There's Staircase, actually, going back to that. The Staircase is about a relationship that ended. So going back to my personal life, I felt like that has really affected me as an artist, because this relationship that I was in really helped me grow a lot. Helped me grow on who I want to be and who I don't want to be. So that really, really affected me, because I was in a relationship for 4 years. In those 4 years, I felt like I was helping this person grow.
Yeah.
Grow in their arts, grow in whatever they want to do. But when it came to me, I was like, I'm not growing.
You weren't focusing on yourself.
I wasn't focusing on myself. And it wasn't until I had to let that person go, and that's what The Staircase is about.
Mm-hmm.
You have to let things go, or else it's just gonna keep hurting you.
Do you talk about like the mental health effects, I guess, when you're making stories and films and writing poetry? Like, do you try to implement the importance of mental health in those?
I do. I think mental health is very, very important. A lot of my poetry is inspired by my own mental health. A lot of times when I felt like I couldn't write anymore, I would leave town. After that breakup, I ran away to Los Angeles. Like, I drove myself to the airport and I hopped in a plane. I didn't tell anyone.
You just left.
I left. And it was right before I shot the staircase, actually. And I didn't even tell my closest friends. I didn't post about it. I left for the weekend. I got a hotel in front of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
And I was just at the beach every day. And that really helped me because I was like, okay, I'm away from everyone I know. I'm in a whole new city. I'm staring at the ocean.
You got impacted with like taking a step down, and you were just down there for a while and just trying to see, okay, where am I at now? You know, what's...
Yeah, I was in rock bottom. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to pursue filmmaking, because this was before I wrote The Staircase. I didn't know if I wanted to just finish my creative writing degree and get a job as a writer somewhere else. And that trip really, really helped me, because being around nature really helped me feel. Because I think it's very important to feel your feelings. And talking about mental health, it's good to talk about it, but it's good to feel about it, because if you don't feel it, you hold it all in. Yeah. And then you lash out. You lash out against other people. You lash out in your own work, and you just gotta feel.
So now I want to implement these questions that our sponsors have for you. So one of them is Socialize. Socialize wants to ask you, being that you're an artist, and an artist that absolutely needs to brand themselves, so like you know, treating yourself as a business. So for example, I'm gonna use Crystal Pop as an example. She's a music artist. She's not Crystal Poppin herself. She's an artist who makes Crystal Poppin's her own brand. So kind of like that. So an artist who brands themselves as a business, being that you chose to be creative, whether it's here locally or anywhere else, do you ever see yourself? How do you see yourself kind of growing and in the industry here locally?
So when I did my first solo show, La Magie, I didn't know what that word meant yet to me. It meant a representation of my childhood, of how I saw art, because for me, art is magic. And over time, people would tell me, oh, like your show, La Magie, La Magie, La Magie. And I had a logo made for it. And it's me with my red beret with the words La Magie on top of it. Yeah. And I remember that someone asked me, like, is that your logo? And it was actually a client. So I was like, yeah, it is.
That is my logo.
And I didn't know that was my logo until I was like, yes, that's my logo. And over time, I had people telling me like, oh, send me your logo so I can add it in this video that you helped us in. Or what's your logo so I can put it on a flyer for this event. And slowly, La Magie became my logo. I might change it later on to like La Magie Productions or La Magie something.
Why is that so important for you? And especially like kind of going back to the question is like, how does that and branding yourself, how do you see that as, I guess your biggest growth here locally? Like, what does it all mean to you, and just how do you see it? How do you see that helping you grow here?
I feel like it's helping me grow because it started out first as a solo show, and now it's like my photography, it's my writing, it's my filmmaking combined, It's like this name is my art. Like La Magie, I want people to be like, oh, what does La Magie mean? And be like, oh wow, this means the magic in French. I never knew this before,
Like the magic of, I guess, creating stuff. So that's the other question that we're gonna ask is like, once you create this platform for yourself, what do you hope that it achieves as far as like, helping that platform you create grow here in the city and, improve our city?
I want to show people that there's magic all around us. We just have to honestly look for it. So many people are stuck in the same cycle going around and around, but we just need we just need to like break away from that and look around our surroundings and be like, what is magic? What makes me happy? You know?
Yeah. And then I like how you touched that, is like making sure that you create something that not just only makes you happy, but then also something that, you know, you understand that's going to help impact other people through the creation that you make. You know? And so another question that Amano's asking, the hosting gallery here, is, you know, they're all about helping artists, musicians, performers, and all these different creative minds. They kind of want to ask you now, what is an advice that you would give maybe to somebody who's also going in the same industry as you, the same field as you? Like your number one piece of advice, whether it's something advice that you got yourself or that you want to give.
An advice that I've always been telling myself is that we are taught to look for opportunities, but we should be taught to create them. I feel like we're so stuck on, I'm looking for the job, or I'm looking for the internship, or I'm looking for this. And sometimes people give up because they're like, oh, no one hired me. Or no one, there's no writing events here, so I'm not going to do it. But no, we should be taught to create them. There's no writing events, then go create one.
Go do one.
You know?
Exactly.
There's no books about the specific thing. Go write one, you know? If you want to do something, go after it. Don't let anyone, don't be, I guess, limited to what you have, you know?
Got you. Okay. So then you as an artist and you as a creative, when you're given an opportunity, how do you make the most out of the opportunity?
How do I make the most out of the opportunity? I guess I try to see it from like different points of view, because every time I get an opportunity, I like to see it from like an outside perspective and then my own perspective, you know? Because I feel like as artists, we get so caught up in our heads that we're like, we tend to forget, okay, let me step out of like my shoes and actually like look at this from another point of view, you know?
So I always like to do it like this when I'm working with somebody. I'm like, I like to see it, you know, what story are they trying to tell? What's something that they're having a pain point on that you can come in and fix for them and make their story come to life. I feel like that's like the bigger impact. I think it goes the same as an artist. When you're just trying to go and work with somebody, is like making sure that their vision comes to life and that you're using your best talents to go out there and just making sure that their vision is alive. Another question I also had was, what mistake did you really get impacted with that you, through your learning curve, that you learned something there and you're just like, okay, now I went through a learning curve and now I can really, you know, what taught you the most, I guess, like out of any mistake that you made?
Telling people my ideas. So I feel like this is number one for creatives. We get excited. We get so excited when we create something that we want to tell the world. We want to show it on Instagram. We want to show it on Facebook. We want to tell the entire world about our ideas, about what we created, about what we got. Well, don't do it. There's a lot of people that are going to try to pull you down. They see you got a great opportunity and they might go after that opportunity, which isn't bad, but there's a lot of people that, and it's sad, there's a lot of creatives that instead of lifting others up, they tend to bring them out, bring them down. And I used to be a person that I would tell my ideas. I'd be like, well, I think it'd be cool if you do this and you do that. And then I would see people do it and they won't include me. And I'd be like, whoa, wait a minute. I told you to that it'd be cool if you had wine in the scene. Yeah. And you guys did it, but you guys didn't like include me or invited me. Yeah. So really keep your ideas private. Keep a lot of your art private until you feel comfortable enough where I got this published, I can share it now. Or I already made this event, I can tell people more about it, you know? Yeah.
And so as an artist as well, time management is another thing that I wanted to talk about. Is, you know, you're doing a lot of different things in different industries, creative writing, poetry, photography, all that stuff. How do you manage yourself? How do you not overwhelm yourself? Do you ever get like the writer's block as well too and stuff? And you just
I get writer's block all the time. What helps with writer's block is actually just writing anything, even if it's bad. Anything that comes to your mind. Because then it's going to push your mind to keep going. It's like going to the gym, you know? You're like, oh, I don't want to go. You're on the treadmill. You start walking, you know? But then eventually you're going to be running.
You start running.
So that's how I see creative writing as like just write the first thing that comes to mind, you know, and you're gonna get your brain working, and eventually writing is just gonna come naturally to you.
Mm-hmm. And the last question I'm gonna ask you before we go is, compared to where you're at right now, what is something you know now that you wish you would have known when you first got started?
I wish I knew that if I never felt comfortable in a place, that I could just simply leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like
Don't
in my
imprison
life,
yourself somewhere.
Yeah, in my life, I imprisoned myself in so many boxes that I myself have put myself in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, well, I'm only a model. I can't act. So I put myself in that box. And then I got into acting. I'm like, oh, I'm only an actress. I can't direct. I'm just an actress.
Don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm like I'm a creative. I'm an artist. I'm a photographer, filmmaker. And that's why I like telling people I'm an artist, because I'm like, there's so many aspects to art. There's writing, photography.
There's no limit.
There's no limit. Yeah.
You could really make anything out of anything. That's what I really, really like. Last thing is, I want you to let people know where they can work with you, how they can reach you, you know, where can they collaborate with you. Just give yourself a shout out, I guess. Out there, you know?
So I have 2 Instagrams. A lot of people tend to tag like my main Instagram, but I have another one called Art Gibel, ARTGIBEL. And that one, I just really want to showcase more of like my creativity, my writing, my art.
Well, what I really like about your creativity is that you make it different.
Mm-hmm.
You take something and you don't do the same thing that everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
You add something into it. So, for example, I know you've been showing me like those photos of different Instagrams where like this lady, she makes her own setups and all that, and like it's crazy because they look really real, but they're not, and it's really crazy. So I like how when you're looking at your art page, it's different from all these other, I guess, photo pages. You know, it makes it
I
very
don't
more
use
unique.
Photoshop.
Mhm.
I'm actually against it.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah, like you make your own little props, your own outfits,
Yeah,
everything.
because I think, because for me, photography is like that gateway into filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be able to nail that framing and composition without thinking, oh, I can just add this.
Yeah.
I can just edit this, you know? Because I feel like that adds more work.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, ooh, let me capture something and work on the set design, the art direction. Let me not just capture it, but let me create it.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. And so before I let you go, Socialize brought us some mangoñadas.
Oh, yeah.
I want you to see what you think about it.
Ooh la
You know,
la.
people don't think, you know, he's a liar. You know, I want to see what you
Yeah.
think. And just let us know.
Hopefully I don't get a brain freeze.
Oh, I got one time. It was horrible. I just ate it and I was like, whoa, good.
Really
Gibel
good.
rating is really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It reminds me of like the ones I used to have in Juarez when I was little.
Oh my god, those were good.
Yeah, they were.
my God. I remember I used to get this little like thing in Juarez. It was called it started with a K. It was like Gonais or Bonais. Have you ever had those, like the Bonaises? I used to get them at the Puente and all that. They were like little
Yeah, I think so.
little ice popsicle things.
Yeah.
And things. Oh my god, those were amazing. And they
Perks
had some
of living on the border.
Yeah, for real. You just get all this Mexican stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's about do it for us, guys. I want to thank everybody so much, especially the team here, for setting up this amazing podcast production. I'm really grateful about it. And make sure you guys go check out Gibel. I'll leave her Instagram and everything around the screen, description, and all that. And also thank you to Amano for hosting us again for this podcast. Make sure you guys check them out if you guys are an artist looking for a studio. They still have some available here, so make sure you guys go check them out. And we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. See you guys.